Welcome to another Coffee with Samso. Today we're back at the UWA club here in Crawley on the University of Western Australia campus. It has been a while since we had a series of episodes. We've been focusing on re-establishing the Samso platform over the 12 to 18 months. We have now come up with a new product called Samso News, which is primarily looking at ASX announcements and using our Samso blog style to create a discussion to give you guys more of a complete picture and more about the intent of the messaging that companies put out. These are mainly missed out in the market chatter and giving you some sort of a discussion that's beyond the headline numbers. So for those who are not subscribers to the Samso platform, please do subscribe to us, click on that bell and the notification. We will be doing a lot of content with Samso News coming up, as well as Coffee with Samso. So please do follow us and hopefully we can go on this journey together. Today we've got Grant Haywood here from Horizon Minerals Limited. The ASX code is HRZ. Grant is a mining engineer and he is the managing director and CEO of the company. Grant has over 30 years of experience in underground and open cut operations. He has held senior positions in Phoenix Gold, Saracen Minerals Holdings and Goldfields. So as we always say, grab your favorite beverage, sit back, let's enjoy another Coffee with Samso. Thank you. Welcome back to another Coffee with Samso. As I've said, we're here with Grant Haywood from Horizon Minerals Limited, and we're back at the UWA club here in the University of Western Australia campus. Grant, welcome to Coffee with Samso. Maybe just a start, just give us a rundown on yourself, how you got into Horizon, and then maybe a bit of about where Horizon is today.
Yeah, sure, Noel. Pleasure to be here. I suppose I'm a mining engineer by profession, studied through the School of Mines and still love the industry, been in it for 30 years. Myself sort of worked through sort of operations and feasibility studies, been up to sort of general management level on a mine site and now been in corporate roles for probably the last 10 or 12 years and probably the last 7 or so has been with Horizon. So I started off sort of consulting and helping the company out, develop and mine some small projects, and then sort of transitioned into a COO role, looking after operations and study work and probably been the CEO for the last couple of years and the MD for the last 12 months. So I love my time with Horizon. I think we're a company that's growing. So Horizon itself is primarily a gold business, and we've got assets in and around a premier mining address actually in Coolgardie and Kalgoorlie in the eastern goldfields of WA. So pretty good ground, and we've built up assets over a period of time, and we're sort of starting to hit critical mass now, where we've got a nice resource base. That we've got enough critical mass to actually put the ore through our own plant, which is pretty exciting for us.
Horizon, just to give context to the guys out there, it's a merger of two companies. I'm not sure how many years ago. This was almost 5-6 years ago. Was it about that?
Yeah, that's right. So back in 2019, Horizon was known as Intamin Resources, listed company. Been on the ASX at that stage for about 25 years and really just had the one asset. So we sort of grew the resource base to 500,000 ounces, and then we merged with another company, McPherson's Resources, which was chaired by our current chairman, Ashok Parekh. So we merged with that company in 2019 and got to probably around 1.1 million ounces. And since then we've done a bit of resource growth through the drill bit, and more recently done some other mergers with a company called Greenstone Resources in June last year, which increased our resource book further, and more recently with Poseidon this year.
Greenstone, that would have brought in the Coolgardie projects. Is that correct? They had
Yeah, that's right, Noel. So what we really liked about the greenstone assets was particularly the Burbanks asset. So it's typical Coolgardie. It's just narrow vein but really high grade sort of mine. So what it did for our resource book is it actually increased the grade and the quality of our resource book and brought in sort of 460,000 ounces. And then there's also the Phillips Fine project, which is around 50,000 ounces, and we actually started mining that project as well. So greenstone was a good stepping stone for us last year. It gave us that critical mass of that resource base that I spoke about earlier.
So Horizon is effectively mining, right? You guys are actually mining, and you're looking to toll treat initially, and there's a strategy that follows that. Maybe you want to just give that context story on that.
Yeah. So we've got our own processing plant through the Poseidon merger that we did in February, and it's a nickel plant that we're going to refurbish the front end and then put a gold circuit on the back end. So we're doing study work for that now, aiming for an FID at the end of the year, and then we'll go and do that construction work next year and get that plant on in 2026. But the point of difference for us, I suppose, is we're generating gold now. So we're generating that through third-party infrastructure in the region. So our Booraara project, we're mining that and treating that at Paddington plant, which is owned by Norton Goldfields. And we're also mining our Phillips Fine project that I mentioned earlier, and we're treating that at FMR Investments Greenfields plant in Coolgardie. So we're sort of generating cash now, which should, reduce the cash required to actually do the refurbishment and turn the mill on. So a little bit different than a standard sort of needing a lot of money to get the plant up and running. We're actually generating cash now.
For a gold mining in this climate, we spoke about this. We met prior to this and had a conversation. Market cap of 125 million, kind of a bit low compared to where I would have thought that a gold miner would be, right? And I know you've got your thoughts on that, and obviously, I think rightly so in this one, because a lot of people, MDs, people in yours say, "Oh, look, our market cap should be better," but I think yours is at 125 for a gold miner is considered undervalued in some ways.
Yeah, look, I think there's two key metrics you can look at. So some hard numbers, and where you look at our market cap, like you said, at 125, over 1.8 million ounces of resource, around that $65 an ounce. So for an explorer sort of developer, we're sort of around the pack or slightly ahead. But the other metrics you can look at is, your EV per production ounce. So if you compare the producers, and that metric is basically your enterprise value divided by how many ounces you produce a year. And we're aiming, to produce around 60,000 ounces over the next sort of 18 months from when we started mining late last year. So if you look at that metric, we're sort of around the $2,500 EV per ounce. But our peers who are producing are 4 or 5 times that multiple. So I think we haven't been re-rated. So I think people are still seeing us as that explorer developer, but they haven't twigged that we're actually producing gold now through third-party infrastructure. We're bringing in cash. We've got our own plant that we aim to turn on next year. So I think at some stage the market will hopefully twig, and we should get a re-rate, I think, yeah.
Can we go through some of your projects? The Booraara one is obviously, that's the main or current main project. Would that be correct?
Yeah, that's correct. No, we've got 2 what we call cornerstone assets. So Burbanks, we talked about earlier, is 460,000 ounces, and Booraara's 430,000 ounces. So together, those 2 projects are half our resource book. So Booraara is really important for us. It's sort of a large stockwork quartz vein array that's sort of hosted in a dolerite. So it's quite a sort of a large structure and a large resource space, but it's sort of low grade. It's around the 1.2, 1.3 grams a tonne. But what it does at the moment in the current gold price, makes good money for us now. But we're only mining 15% of that resource with current mining. We're treating through Paddington. We can actually use a lot of that resource base going forward for Black Swan as well. So between Booraara and our Burbanks assets, they'll underpin that I suppose, the mill feed for Black Swan over the next 5 or 6 years.
From the guys that from the retail and obviously I'm on that sector looking at you guys, Booraara, you talk about the resource there and what the potential you have. I mean, has that been properly drilled out? I mean, is there...
Yeah, so 10 and a half, sorry, I'm an engineer, so I know the numbers. 10 and a
yeah.
half million tonnes at 1.27 grams a tonne, 428,000 ounces. The resources to a depth of 200 metres. We do have hits below that. Previous resources that we've stated and McPherson's have stated had an underground component of that, but we've trimmed it to 200 metres of open pittable material. So there is some good hits at depth, and we can extend that resource. But the good thing about Booraara is the strike length of that resource is only 1.5 kilometres, and our tenure stretches along that Booraara shear for 11 kilometres, and we've got some other hits. We've got a resource 4 kilometres to the south at Golden Ridge. Between Golden Ridge and Booraara, there's a sort of some hits there around an area called Chapel Bore, and then further to the north we've got ground for another 6 kilometres, and there's some smoke there that we want to follow up. So we think we can grow the resource at depth and also laterally around the Booraara resource, but also along that Booraara shear as well. We think there's enormous upside as well. So,
I mean, we talked about how you guys you just recently did a big raise. In some ways it was to bring forward your gold sales, and then your replenishment of that will come from your gold sales. Can you just run through that strategy, because we talked about it, but for the guys out there?
Yeah, so we're generating cash from operations at the moment, as we talked about, but usually there's quite a heavy cash burn at the front of projects where the undergrounds are open pits. So we've had a pretty large cash burn at our Booraara project. When you start projects, the strip ratios are higher, so you need to move a lot more waste for every tonne of ore. And the other thing with Booraara is the grade improves at depth, so we're sort of been mining the lower grade areas of the deposit as well. So you're in that sort of cash burn phase where you get a little bit of money coming back, but you're spending more than what you're getting back. So sort of around the last quarter, we've sort of hit that maximum pain point, I call it, where you've got your maximum sort of negative cash drawdown, and now the project's washing its face and actually starting to make some good cash flows going forward. So that's one side of the coin. The other thing with our ore purchase agreement with Norton is it does take some time to get the stockpiles treated. So there's a process where we need to build the stockpile, then drill out the stockpile, get assays back, give that to Norton, then we discuss, debate the grades, we agree on a grade, and then we can start hauling it. And that can take 8 to 9 weeks, and we probably get 50% of our revenue back from Norton then. And then once the last stone's been processed, then we get the remainder of our money. So that can sometimes be 13 or 14 weeks. So just due to that process, we've built up significant stockpiles on site. So we've got over 200,000 tonnes of ore built up at Booraara as well, and something like $25 million worth of gold is there as well. So we've talked about strip ratios and cash burn and getting some money back, but a lot of our expenditure has been putting ore on the pad, and it's still tied up. So going back to the raise, sort of around $12 million was just to provide significant sort of cash flow to get through that phase, so that the company's shored up, and while we get that gold processed, we can do the other things we want to do. So we were confident that we could get through without a raise, but wasn't confident enough to pull the trigger on drilling and accelerate studies and do a lot of the other things we wanted to do. So we'd probably have to wait 3 or 4 months until the cash flows were stronger to do that. So I think doing the raise now just unencumbers us. We've got that working cap for the stockpiles, which will come back, as you said. We can start drilling in our projects and get studies going. And the other thing is the gold markets are quite strong now, and we're confident that we can pay for our refurbishment of our plant from the cash flows we get from Booraara and Phillips Fine, but we will need potentially some more cash to actually start the mines to feed our plant. And I suppose by taking a bit of money now for that refurbishment and working capital, it's de-risked the amount we need in the future as well. So it's sort of grab a bit of money now while the markets are strong. I think the fundamentals for gold going forward are still quite strong, but you know, you can get caught in cycles where things change quickly, and the access to that equity and capital might not be there when we need it in the future. So I think we've sort of de-risked ourselves and getting a bit of that capital in now as well.
Oh, I think it's the smartest thing to do, because you can't tell the future. And if it goes well, as everyone keeps saying, then there's more to take then.
Yeah.
Can you just give us a rundown on that Poseidon? Because obviously that's going to be your future for the company in terms of processing, etc.
Yep.
Just give us a rundown on what's happening there and how you see it. Because obviously a lot of times refurbishing a mill can be a problem, but we all know costs of building has gone up significantly in all forms of building, so it becomes more economical, I guess.
Yeah, so once we sort of got that critical mass of that resource base, like we probably kicked the tyres on 5 or 6 plants, from some in the gold fields that were on care and maintenance, operating, and even some away from the gold fields, and looked at maybe relocating them. And I suppose for various reasons they didn't tick all the boxes that were required, but the Black Swan plant sort of did, and I think people were probably looking at us a bit strangely, that why is a gold company sort of merging with a nickel company, but it really was that jewel in the crown, the Black Swan plant. So whether it's a nickel plant or a gold plant, the comminution circuit, the crushing and grinding circuits are exactly the same, and it's all there. So all we need to do is build the gold circuit on the back end of the plant. And the other good thing about a brownfield site is it's already got established power to site on grid. It's already got its own bore fields from previous operations, so you've got water. The tails dams there are already in place as well. There's probably 15 months of capacity. They're partway through lift 4, and the next lift 5, is also approved. So you've already got approved tailings increases and those sorts of things. So I think the replacement value we've put on is $150 million, but you talk to others in the industry, and a plant like that could be worth $200 million. But you know, we did an all-scrip deal for $30 million with Poseidon. I think it would have cost us around the 60 million Australian mark to get that plant up and running. So we think it's pretty value accretive to do. It's in a pretty good location as well, where our current assets are, and you know, we can look for other opportunities in and around Black Swan to try and bring other third parties into the processing stream as well.
Yeah, I'm just looking at your presentation, a map where it's and in fact all your tenements is quite strategic in terms of a gold business, right? I mean, a lot of people forget that Coolgardie was where the gold boom started, and then they found something in Kalgoorlie. So in terms of how you see you guys stepping, you mentioned that you got Philip Fine, and then you're going to then look at the more exploration side of things to build that resource. Is that kind of the big step that you guys will do as you mine small bits and pieces?
Yeah. So we sort of talked about Booraara and Burbanks as our cornerstone larger assets, and then we've got a lot of smaller assets around the place as well. So there's probably 2 streams at the moment. So we've talked a bit about Booraara, but probably Burbanks we probably need to talk about as well. So Burbanks is a great asset, but a lot of our resource is in the inferred category. So only 25% of it's indicated. So that means only 25% of the resource can actually be converted to an ore reserve. So, and if you look at it from an underground potential, where we see the long-term feed going into Black Swan, only 10% of it is indicated. So we need to do a lot more drilling at Burbanks. So we started that program recently and have started infill drilling. So it's to infill the current known resource and convert more of it to indicated, so that we can convert more of it to reserve and de-risk the project to feed Black Swan. So we've got a 15,000 metre program at the moment, is purely infill to get that confidence up. But then we see enormous growth at Burbanks as well. only 30% of the resource has been drilled to sort of that 500 metres depth, and it's also still open along strike as well. So we want to grow that resource as well. So we've got another, after the initial infill program, we've got another 15,000 metre that's purely extensional growth type drilling. So there's a lot of work to do at Booraara, a lot of work to do at Burbanks, and then we've also got some greenfields targets as well. And I suppose that's the really sexy stuff, isn't it, when you want to discover something new? So, we've got some good targets that we want to obviously find some new deposits at as well.
One of the key things, one of the things that I liked, and I'm not quite sure how it fits in the picture, is that obviously you've got the McPherson project, which was had a big silver story to it.
Yep.
How is that playing into it? I mean, silver's to me, is a very funny thing. It can be really great, but then it can be a non-story too. So how does that fit into your view of Horizon with that?
Yeah, look, Nimbus is it's a very interesting project, and like the management team and the technical team and the board actually like Nimbus. I think the silver price has sort of strengthened a little bit in the last year or so. So there's 20 million ounces of silver there and 104,000 tonnes of zinc in the resource, and a little bit of antimony and a few other things in there as well. But for us, I suppose the focus is on the gold story at the moment. But Nimbus hasn't gone away. Nimbus has got its issues as well. And there's some heavy metals in there. So there's mercury, there's arsenic, and there's lead. And from prior milling, and this goes back to the mid-2000s, it was classified as a contaminated site. So we've had to, post-merger with McPherson's, we've cleaned up that site. McPherson's had done 2 out of 3 stages of cleanup, and we completed the 3rd stage in and around 2022. And then we've been working with the Contaminated Sites Division of DWare to reclassify the site. So we've sort of been limited on what we could do at Nimbus as well until we got that reclassification. So we've cleaned up all the heavy metals, and we had an independent auditor present our case to DWare, which they've accepted. So we're pretty close on reclassification in the next few months. And basically what that means is we can go in and do at the tenements what you're allowed to do under the Mining Act. You can go in and drill, you can mine and process. So people are probably thinking, gee, they've got this really big silver resource there. What are they doing with it? We've sort of had our hands tied with what we've been allowed to do, but
okay.
Nimbus we like it's a big resource there. There's two lodes that host most of the higher grade, and there's probably about I think it's around 6.7 million ounces in those 2 lodes, and it's been drilled like Swiss cheese. There's holes everywhere at Nimbus, but there's actually an exploration target that's had no drilling directly below the high grade lodes, and we're looking to put some holes in that and test it.
That's for silver, yeah?
That's for silver, yeah. So I think, I'd love to drill it before Christmas, but I think the gold side and the work at Burbanks and some other greenfields targets will probably take priority on the gold business. But I'd love to have some holes in there early next year and just test Nimbus a bit further. And now we've got Black Swan. We're building the gold circuit around the concentration circuit. We're not demolishing that. We're keeping it intact because there could be a future nickel business if the nickel price turns. And also, Nimbus is amenable for flotation as well, so we can have a processing solution for Nimbus as well. So
the distance, from Burbanks to Black Swan, and is that going to be a factor coming up for you guys, if that's the long-term view? Yeah,
it's a long way. It's around, I think, 85 k's, I suppose, as the crow flies. And it's sort of 98 k's, 100 k's by road, which is getting up there. But with the gold price now, some people are drawing 150, 200 kilometres around their plants. But you need to be gold price proofed as well. The gold price will come back at some stage. Probably not anytime soon. But the good thing about Burbanks, and particularly underground, is it's high grade. So it can support getting in the back of the road train going to Black Swan. So I think that's in that asset's favour, that although it's a long way, it can support getting in a truck, and then probably 80% of our resource base is probably within that 50 to 60k range of Black Swan. So yeah, our assets are pretty well located to the plant.
Would you have a big expenditure quota, like yearly, like commitments and stuff like that?
On exploration,
on all your projects that you have.
Oh, the minimum expenditure and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it is pretty high. So one good thing about having a good land package is you have plenty of opportunity, but the other thing is there's rents and rates that you need to pay. So rents to the state government, rates to the local governments, and then there's minimum expenditure. So one of the good things about the system in WA is it's a use it or lose it system. So if you're not working the ground and you're not spending money on the ground, then you don't get to hold the ground. So our minimum expenditure is probably around the sort of $5 million mark. So we've acquired obviously Greenstone and Poseidon and bought in more ground. So we had about sort of 940 square kilometres, and now we're up to just over 1,300 square kilometres. So we're always reviewing our portfolio and seeing if we can improve it by acquiring more things, but we're also looking at what we can divest as well, because it's no good holding ground if we're not going to do the work on it. So we're better off divesting it and putting it in the hands of someone else who wants to work the ground. So yeah, we're always looking at potential M&A opportunities, but we're also looking at potential divestments as well.
Yeah,
and it keeps those costs down as well. Yeah.
Yeah, I was just looking at your swag of tenements. I mean, it's not cheap to hold on to a lot of these kind of stuff. M&A would be obvious JVs or earnings or whatever like that. Now going forward, you know, what's going to be the news flow for you guys in the next 6 to 9 months, I guess. We're all investors are now all short term, right?
Yeah, that's right. Yep. Well,
they want to know what you're doing tomorrow.
Yeah. Well, I think we've talked about Burbanks. So we started drilling there last week.
Yeah.
So I think once we get a few holes in to get those processed, we'll have some assays coming back. And Burbanks being Burbanks, narrow, high grade, I think we picked up a friend.
He doesn't agree.
He could be an investor.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we'll get some good news flow on Burbanks coming through, and probably some nice sexy grades coming out of that. So I think investors can look forward to that. As we mentioned, we've got a 15,000 metre infill and then a 15,000 metre extensional program. So that's probably 7 or 8 months of drilling. So we're going to have continuous news flow coming out of Burbanks. We're also doing our study work at the moment. So GR Engineering are doing the refurbishment and repurpose of Black Swan to a gold plant. So that study work will come out at PFS level in the December quarter, early in the December quarter, along with Mining Plus are doing the mining studies to feed that plant for a minimum of 5 years. So we'll get all that to market as well. So I think there's going to be some good news flow, good drilling results, good study results coming out, and I think the study results will actually lay out how we plan to fill Black Swan and what assets that will turn on first, and how the mine plan shapes, and then following that we'll do even more detailed work on those assets that we're going to bring forward into the pipeline. So there'll be continuous news flow on that as well.
Looking at what you're trying to do at Burbanks to upgrade your resource and things like that, from a lot of people who are not from our industry, I mean, what are the risks involved? I mean, obviously you're infill drilling, you're drilling between good results, obviously. Are there any potential surprises that could come up where you might not be able to achieve what you're trying to do at Burbanks? In your opinion, I mean, generally?
Yeah, look, we are a little tenement constrained, so we've got quite steep holes to the depths we want to drill. Some of our holes are over 500 metres deep, so you're getting down there and drilling from surface. So we can be tenement constrained a little with the angles that you get, but we're working through those with the way we're drilling. But we'll talk to our neighbours as well and see if we can collar on their ground and get better angles and those sorts of things. So I don't think it's a big risk, but I think, yeah, the infill drilling, there's always risks. I think Burbanks itself is quite nuggety as well, so the grade can be up and down. Like you can have like ounce, 2 ounce hits, and then you might get a 0.5 or a 0.6, but overall it's pretty well high grade all the way through. But I think the risk is probably on the next phase, when you, probably not in the drilling, but when you do the resource model, to try and get that right when you've got a high nugget and those sorts of things, and make sure we don't overcall the grade, or and then you can't deliver, or worse, you undercall the grade, and some of the resource doesn't actually get up in the mine plan that could be economic. So I think there are always risks as well, is trying to get those right, and make sure the resource gears have enough time that they can look at it properly and estimate it properly, and then obviously that flows through to economics and those sorts of things. So I think I'm not concerned about the drilling, but I think we just need to get the resource right following the drilling. Yeah.
Okay. So with a few highlights that you talked about, the news flow, things like that. Can you give us like what it is within those 6 months, 9 months, 12 months? Any key points guys should be looking out for? Is it the feasibility study, or is it the drilling results? Any sort of 1 to 3 points that you may think that could be, hey, you guys should just keep an eye on that? Or?
Yeah, I think keep an eye on our current production out of Phillips Find and Booraara, and generating cash, and from the September quarter start to see that cash balance rise, and that'll help de-risk and provide the necessary capital for a large part of that refurbishment. So I think keep an eye on that. I think drilling results from Burbanks is proof of concept. Yep, it's narrow, high grade, and there can be validation of that through the drill results. And I think the studies are probably the most important thing. There could be some in the market that are cautious, and maybe that's part of that re-rate we haven't seen, is have they got the resources to fill this mill? So I think the studies are going to be important, because they'll show how it all comes together, what assets are going to fill that plant when we turn them on, the optionality we've got. It'll show the sensitivities through the mill. We're actually got to throttle back the throughput of the mill to 1.5 million tonnes. So we've got actually great expansion potential. So we talked about the optionality of nickel and silver through the plant, but also throughput rate is another lever that we can pull. So we're actually throttling back to 1.5 million tonnes. The plant's nameplate is 2.2 on very hard ore, and we can probably get to 2.8 or easily 2.5 if we wanted to. So I think there's going to be lots of optionality coming out of our PFS study as well. But I think the key thing is the metrics. There'll be NPVs, there'll be IRRs, and all the investors can actually see what we can do, and that'll show the re-rate potential of the company.
I can't help to think. I mean, I know we've talked about it. The silver potential. If you were able to make that work, obviously silver price is well, and you get a lot of silver companies seems to be traveling well on their valuation. How much of that how much could that help you guys if you were to be able to get the right news flow out of Nimbus? Or could it actually be something that will slow you down, because now you've got to start considering you want to treat both?
Yeah, I think step one, there's a few things to try and get the rubber on the road. So demonstrate our production capability that we're doing now through third-party treatment. I think deliver on the studies and then start the refurbishment. And I think the silver's more an option at this stage, but if the silver price starts moving, I think we can move quickly as well. There's not a lot of drilling we need to do to get that exploration target into the mine plan, but if the silver price keeps moving on the current resource, we can move forward fairly quickly as well. So I think we're sort of focusing on the gold story, but Nimbus can add a lot. We've done previous study work where we actually had built a plant at Nimbus and the project washed its face, but it wasn't really compelling with the cost of building a plant there. So we think by growing the resource with the exploration target just adds more meat on the bone for Nimbus. And the other thing now is we've got a plant with a flotation circuit we can refurbish. So the capex required now is probably a quarter of what it was before. So Nimbus can provide a lot of optionality. And the good thing about what we're doing with GR Engineering with the study is we're keeping our optionality open. So the way we're designing the gold circuit is we can treat, say, 8 weeks of gold, and then if we do have some nickel or some silver, we can switch the circuit easily through the flotation circuit and run 3 or 4 weeks of something else, and then switch back to gold. And so we're going to have that optionality through our processing. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Look, fantastic story. I think that's the reason why I reached out to you guys as well, because I couldn't understand your mining, digging, and where you are at. But any last words to the guys out there, about what should they take away from this discussion, and reiterate what they should be looking out for in the coming months?
Yeah, I think we're a little different. We're an emerging mid-tier gold producer. We've got an aspirational target of 100,000 ounces per annum. And we do have optionality to increase that through our plant. It's going to take us till late 26 to get that going, but we're currently producing gold now in a great gold price environment. So we're generating cash to reduce the amount of capital that we need in the future. So I think that's our point of difference to other companies out there that are emerging producers. And we want to grow our resource base. We're looking forward to the results from Burbanks, but we've got some great greenfields assets that we want to look at. We talked about the greater Booraara area. There's a prospect right next door to the plant called Wilson's, which is an early stage target, 200 metres from the admin building. We're looking forward to putting some holes into that project as well. So I think, we're an emerging, developing mid-tier gold producer, and lots of news flow and exciting things to come.
Sounds a bit like, as you were talking, I'm thinking, when you mentioned 200 metres from the admin office, it's kind of like the Spartan story where they found this massive thing in between where they were, and then there's a bit of the Kundana story as well, and as well as our mates in De Grey, right? Who would have known you got this 10 million in between a couple of pits in middle somewhere. Look, Grant, as I said, good story, and I hope we can keep following what you guys are doing. And thank you for coming on Coffee with Samso.
No, thank you, Noel. I've enjoyed our chat, and it's been a pleasure. Thanks.
All right.